Okay, so you've got like a ton of stuff to read, right? Articles, books, maybe a whole podcast
Yeah,
series.
or maybe you're just like super curious about something. You want to get smart fast without like, spending hours and hours going through everything.
Exactly. And that is exactly why we are here. We're your expert guys pulling out those key insights so you can, be in the know quickly.
With a few aha moments along the way.
Yeah, totally. And in this deep dive, we're going to tackle strategies for setting goals, upping your productivity game, and navigating the whole world of being an entrepreneur. So you sent us these excerpts from a conversation with a successful CEO, and it's from the Jay Shetty podcast, right?
That's right. And honestly, her story and insights are just packed with valuable stuff. Our goal today is to really unpack that and pull out the most useful nuggets that you can actually use like right away today.
Awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so right off the bat, something that really hit me was how important it is to really nail down what your end goal is.
It sounds so simple, but it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. And the CEO, she put it really well. She said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but it was something like, if you know where you want to go, you absolutely have to define what that end goal looks like.
Right, so that you can then work backward and figure out, okay, what are the steps I need to take to get there?
Exactly. And this is true whether you're like planning a business strategy or chasing a personal goal, like even a fitness goal.
Even just trying to learn something new, right? Like prepping for a presentation or getting up to speed in a field that you're just starting to explore.
For sure. It all starts with having that crystal clear picture of what the finish line actually looks like.
Right. Without that, your efforts can kind of become all over the place. And you end up feeling busy, but not actually making any real progress.
Yeah.
So having that clear definition of success, it's like your compass.
Totally. So, okay, you have your destination in mind, but then how do you actually start moving towards it, without getting completely overwhelmed by all the things you could be doing?
Yeah, that's where this whole concept of the rule of three comes in. This CEO, she's a big advocate for it.
She really is. And it's all about prioritizing.
Yeah. Ruthless prioritization. It's
Right.
about focusing on the three most important things that you're going to get done that day.
That are actually going to move you closer to achieving those goals that you've set for yourself.
Exactly. And it's not just about picking any three tasks. It's about thinking about the impact of each one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Like ask yourself, if I could only do one thing today, which one would have the biggest impact on moving me closer to my goal? And then use that as a way to kind of filter down your list to the truly essential three.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of just like brainstorming a giant to-do list, you're being really strategic about which tasks actually deserve your time and energy.
Right. And remember, things change, right?
Yeah.
So those three things might need to shift and adjust as you go along. Don't be afraid to reevaluate them on a regular basis.
Oh, that's a good point. It's not about setting them in stone and then never changing them. It's about being flexible.
Exactly. So think about your own to-do list right now. How many things on there actually have a big impact on your most important goals?
Oh, good question. Okay, so let's talk about how this CEO's perspective on what truly matters has actually shifted over time.
Yeah, this is a really interesting part of her story.
Because, like a lot of us, she started out really focused on achieving that freedom of dollar, which, makes sense. It's a really common starting point for many people.
Yeah, financial security, right. Being able to afford the things that you want, that's a big motivator.
For sure. But then what's really cool is that she talks about how her focus really shifted towards valuing freedom of time even more.
Yeah, and this is such a valuable insight because at the end of the day, time is something you can never get back, right? So she talks about the idea of $1,000 tasks versus $10 tasks. And this really illustrates that shift in her mindset.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are $1,000 tasks versus $10 tasks?
So basically, a $1,000 task is something that is super valuable to you personally. It's something that brings you a lot of joy, it's deeply fulfilling, and it aligns with your core values.
Got it. And a $10 task is more like a chore, something that you could easily delegate to someone else.
Exactly. And she gives this great example of cooking with her family. She says she could easily hire a chef to do that, but she chooses not to because it's something that she really cherishes. It's a $1,000 task for her.
That makes a lot of sense. So the takeaway for us is to really think about what our own $1,000 tasks are, the things that we absolutely do not want to give up or delegate to someone else.
Right. Because those are the things that are truly going to bring us the most happiness and fulfillment in the long run. So what are your $1,000 tasks?
Good question. I'm gonna have to think about that one. Okay, so now let's talk about all those other tasks, the ones that we inevitably have to deal with.
The ones that aren't necessarily $1,000 tasks.
Exactly. And this CEO, she talks about using this framework called do, delegate, delete.
It sounds simple, but it's actually a really powerful tool for managing your time and your energy effectively.
Yeah. So do obviously refers to the tasks that you absolutely need to do yourself.
Right. The ones that are really important and that you can't delegate to someone else.
Then delegate refers to the tasks that someone else can handle. Maybe they're not as high priority for you, or maybe someone else is actually better equipped to do them.
Exactly. And then delete refers to the tasks that are just not worth your time and energy at all.
That you can just get rid of entirely.
Right. Maybe they're not actually that important, or maybe they've become outdated.
Okay, so I love this framework.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that she emphasizes that it's not a one-time thing. It's not like you do it once and then you're done.
Right. She talks about the need for regular time audits because, as she says, your seasons are changing.
What she means by that is that what's a top priority one week might be far less important the next week.
Exactly. Your priorities are constantly shifting and evolving based on what's going on in your life and in your business.
So it's really important to take a step back every now and then and reassess how you're spending your time and make sure that your actions are still aligned with your current goals.
Right. Because if you don't do that, you can easily fall into the trap of just doing things the way you've always done them.
Even if they're not actually serving you anymore.
Exactly. So a time audit is really just about taking a hard look at how you're actually spending your time
Mm-hmm.
and comparing that to how you think you're spending your time or how you would like to be spending your time.
And then making adjustments as needed.
Exactly. And it's amazing what you can discover when you really start paying attention to how you're using your time.
So speaking of taking control of your time, the CEO, she shares this really interesting shift that she experienced in her own mindset around time.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Because she used to say this mantra to herself all the time, even in those early days when she was just starting her business and working like crazy. And the mantra was, I have all the time in the world.
Wow.
I know, right? It seems kind of counterintuitive, especially when you're in that kind of go, go, go mode.
Yeah, you would think that you would feel like you don't have enough time.
But she says that now she genuinely feels that way. She really does have all the time in the world.
So how does she make that shift?
Well, she says it really comes down to cultivating presence and intention. It's about being fully present in the moment and making conscious choices about how you spend your time.
So it's not just about being busy. It's about being intentional with your time.
Exactly. It's about living a full life rather than just feeling constantly busy and reactive.
That's such a powerful distinction.
Yeah.
And it really suggests that effective time management is about more than just optimizing your schedule or your to-do list.
Right. It's about shifting your entire relationship with time itself.
And being fully engaged in what you're doing right now.
Because when you do that, she says you can actually expand your perception of time and reduce that feeling of being rushed all the time.
That's a really interesting idea. So instead of trying to cram more and more into your day, you're actually focusing on being more present in each moment.
Exactly. So now let's say you're faced with like a million different tasks.
Yeah.
How do you actually decide what to do yourself, what to delegate to someone else, and what to just totally get rid of?
Yeah. How do you make those tough decisions about where to focus your energy?
Well, it actually all comes back to that first point that we talked about, having that crystal clear understanding of your end goal.
Ah, okay, so it's all connected.
Exactly. Because if you know where you want to go, it becomes so much easier to identify which tasks are the ones that are really going to move the needle.
The ones that are actually going to make a difference in helping you reach that goal.
And which tasks are just distractions, even if they feel really urgent at the time.
Right, because not everything that feels urgent is actually important.
Exactly. And she actually ties this back to the rule of three. So she adds, what are the 3 key things that are going to get you closer to that quarterly or annual objective?
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. So you're
Yeah.
always coming back to those big picture goals.
Exactly. And having that clarity also gives you the confidence to say no to things that don't align with those priorities.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to say yes to everything, especially when you're first starting out.
Right. You want to be helpful. You want to be involved in everything.
But if you're not careful, you can end up spreading yourself too thin and not actually making any real progress on the things that really matter.
And she uses this great analogy of the coxswain in rowing. She says the CEO's role isn't to be doing all the rowing themselves,
Right. It's about making sure that everyone else is rowing in the same direction.
and that they're focused on those critical priorities. So it's about providing that strategic direction and empowering your team to do their best work.
Not about getting bogged down in every single detail.
Exactly. And when it comes to delegating, it's not just about getting rid of those smaller, less important tasks.
Right. It's about giving your team ownership over those needle-moving activities.
Making sure that everyone understands the bigger picture and how their work contributes to the overall goals.
Right. And this is about more than just freeing up your time. It's about creating a sense of purpose and ownership within your team.
Because when people understand how their work makes a difference, they're going to be more engaged and more motivated.
And ultimately, more effective. So effective delegation is really about empowering others to grow and contribute in a meaningful way.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the CEO's early experiences as an entrepreneur, because it's really striking to hear that she didn't start out with this grand vision of building a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, she's very open about the fact that she didn't have it all figured out from the beginning.
In fact, she says, and I'm quoting here, "I didn't know I could go build a $1 million business, let alone a $1 billion one."
Which is so refreshing to hear, right? Because it makes her seem a lot more relatable.
Totally. It makes you realize that even the most successful people started somewhere, and they probably had a lot of doubts and uncertainties along the way.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that, especially when you're just starting out and feeling overwhelmed by everything.
So understanding her background actually gives a lot of context to her success. She was a first-generation college graduate.
Right. And her parents were immigrants who really emphasized the importance of education.
And her family moved around a lot when she was growing up,
So she had to be really adaptable and resilient.
which are definitely qualities that helped her in her entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. And then she talks about this really powerful thing that her dad used to do. He would wake her up every morning and say, "You have it."
Wow, that's amazing. Just that constant encouragement and belief in her abilities.
Yeah. And she says that she didn't really feel any limitations based on her gender until she actually entered the workforce.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, because she was raised in this environment where she was constantly being told that she could achieve anything she set her mind to.
So it wasn't until later that she encountered those external barriers and biases.
And it makes you wonder how many other young women out there have that same potential, but are never given the same kind of encouragement and support.
Yeah, for sure. And so when she started facing some initial setbacks in her career, her dad's advice to her was just to go start the company.
Wow, what a dad.
Right. And she actually did it. She took a significant pay cut and moved back home to launch her business.
That's a huge leap of faith.
It is. And she describes it as taking 2 steps backward in order to go 5 steps forward.
Which is a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to let go of something secure and comfortable in order to pursue something that has the potential to be much greater.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that. They get stuck in those golden handcuffs of a stable job, even if it's not truly fulfilling.
Yeah, because there's always that fear of the unknown,
But she really embodies that willingness to take calculated risks.
which actually connects to this book that she mentions, Die with Zero.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's about not waiting until the end of your life to do the things that you really want to do.
Right, because you might not have the time or the health to enjoy them then.
Exactly. So it's about considering the risk of not doing something.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just focusing on the potential negative outcomes of taking action, you're also thinking about the potential regrets of inaction.
Exactly. And this perspective actually plays into her decision to leave her company at its peak.
Oh, right, because she was facing some health issues and burnout.
Yeah, she realized that she needed to prioritize her well-being, even if it meant walking away from something that she had built from the ground up.
Which is a really tough decision to make, especially when your company is doing so well.
But it shows a real maturity in her understanding of success. It's not just about financial metrics. It's about living a fulfilling life and taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And she also has some really interesting insights about how social media can sometimes mess with our goals.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
She talks about how it can create this external pressure and make us lose sight of our own intrinsic motivation.
Right, because we start focusing so much on getting likes and followers and external validation.
Exactly. And we can end up chasing metrics that don't actually align with our true goals.
And then she shares this awesome story about how she sold her first 100 customers out of the trunk of her car.
Wow, that's so scrappy.
Right. And she says that her daily goal was just to get one yes.
Just one person to say yes to her product.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great lesson because it breaks down a big, daunting goal into something much more manageable
It's about taking it one step at a time,
and focusing on building those authentic connections with your early customers.
which is so much more valuable than just trying to game the system or chase those vanity metrics.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's really easy to lose sight of in today's world, where everything is so focused on online presence and building a huge following.
For sure. Okay, so she also makes this really important point about purpose-driven entrepreneurship, especially for women.
Yeah, this is a really important topic.
She says that a lot of women start businesses because they want to solve specific problems that they deeply care about.
Right, often problems that they've experienced themselves or that they see in their communities.
Exactly. So they're not just starting businesses for the sake of making money. They're driven by a deeper sense of purpose.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. But she also points out that there were these really concerning statistics about the lower percentage of female founders who reach those big revenue milestones and secure venture capital funding.
Which is so frustrating because women are clearly capable of building successful businesses.
Absolutely. But there are still these systemic barriers in place that make it more difficult for them to access the same resources and opportunities as men.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder for all of us, no matter what our goals are, to not constantly be raising the bar for ourselves.
Right, to not always be chasing the next milestone and forgetting to appreciate the progress that we've already made.
And she's actually really honest about her own experience with that. She talks about how her first company grew so quickly and how easy it was to get caught up in that whirlwind of success.
Yeah, and to start comparing herself to other people and feeling like she was never quite doing enough.
Which is a really common trap to fall into. But it's important to remember that success is a personal journey, not a competition.
Exactly. So take the time to celebrate your wins, big and small, and don't lose sight of what truly matters to you.
So when she talks about navigating those challenges as a female founder, she shares these 3 key lessons that she's learned.
Oh, I love these.
The first one is to build your network and find people who support you, including men.
Right, because having a strong network of mentors and allies can make a huge difference in your journey.
The second lesson is to get comfortable with asking for help, which can be really hard for a lot of people, especially women.
Yeah, we're often taught to be independent and self-sufficient.
But it's okay to admit that you need help sometimes. And there are people out there who are willing and able to give it.
So don't be afraid to reach out and ask.
And the third lesson is to just do it anyway.
Yeah, don't let fear or self-doubt hold you back.
Just keep showing up and doing the work, even when it's hard.
And even when you face setbacks or rejection.
Exactly. And she shares this really powerful anecdote about being mistaken for event staff at a CEO conference.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it really highlights those unconscious biases that still exist, even in spaces that are supposedly progressive.
And it makes her message of do it anyway even more important.
Because you can't let other people's perceptions of you limit your potential.
Absolutely. You have to believe in yourself and your vision and just keep pushing forward.
Now, she also talks about the unique challenges of building a business with family.
Yeah, that's a whole other layer of complexity.
And she gives these 3 really valuable pieces of advice. First, she says, don't just partner with family for the sake of it.
Right. Make sure there are actually complementary skill sets and clear roles defined.
So you're not stepping on each other's toes or creating unnecessary conflict.
And she says, stay in your lanes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's about respecting each other's expertise and boundaries.
Her second piece of advice is to be really open and honest about money from the beginning.
And to always prioritize the underlying family relationship.
Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters.
Exactly. And her third piece of advice is to have those difficult conversations early on.
About what will happen if things don't go according to plan.
Right, because it's much easier to address those issues proactively than to try to deal with them after the fact.
And she uses this really great analogy of siblings fighting. She says that they might disagree and argue, but ultimately they have that deep bond that allows them to reconcile quickly.
So it's about recognizing that even though you might have conflicts, you still love and respect each other.
And that you're in it together for the long haul.
Exactly. So I think that's a good reminder for anyone who's considering starting a business with family.
Or even just working with family in any capacity.
Yeah, it's about being really mindful of those dynamics and setting clear expectations from the beginning.
Okay, so it's also really interesting to hear about how this CEO built what she calls an unsexy business.
Yeah, she's not afraid to admit that her business isn't the most glamorous or trendy.
But it's incredibly successful.
Yeah.
And it solves a really fundamental problem in payment processing.
Right. It's something that operates behind the scenes, but it's essential for so many businesses.
And I think this really challenges the narrative that you have to have this flashy, attention-grabbing brand to make it big.
Yeah, sometimes the most successful businesses are the ones that are quietly solving those essential problems that no one else is paying attention to.
And she says that ideas don't make you an entrepreneur, execution does.
Oh, that's such a great quote.
It's a good reminder that having a great idea is only the first step.
The real work comes in bringing that idea to life and making it a reality.
Which takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and perseverance.
And a willingness to adapt and pivot when things don't go according to plan.
So as her business started to scale, she talks about how everything changes at each stage of growth.
Yeah, the challenges and the approaches that worked at one stage might not be effective at the next.
Exactly. So she introduces this framework of focusing on people, process, and profit.
And those become the key pillars for scaling effectively.
So you need to have the right people in place. You need to have solid processes that can handle the increasing volume of work.
And you need to be making a profit to ensure that your business is sustainable.
And she also emphasizes the importance of having multiple revenue streams.
Right, because you don't want to be reliant on just one source of income.
But throughout all of those changes and growth, she says that the core values of the company and the culture that they built remained consistent.
Which is really important because that's what ultimately attracts and retains top talent.
And she actually changed the name of her company at one point to reflect that larger vision.
So they went from Fat Merchant to Stacks.
And that's just another example of her willingness to adapt and evolve as the business grew.
It's about recognizing that things are going to break and change along the way.
And being open to embracing those changes and learning from them.
So now let's talk about what she describes as her darkest day as an entrepreneur.
Which is actually really surprising because it happened after she achieved that billion-dollar valuation and successful exit.
Yeah, you would think that that would be the happiest day of her life.
Right. But she describes this feeling of emptiness and the realization that she had been neglecting her health and well-being.
Because she had been so focused on building the business.
Exactly. And she had this moment of, now what?
Like, what do I do now that I've achieved this huge goal?
So she took a sabbatical to really reflect on her priorities and figure out what she wanted to do next.
And she realized that she wanted to shift her focus from freedom of dollar to freedom of impact.
She wanted to use her skills and experience to make a difference in the world.
Which is really inspiring.
Mm.
And it shows that true success isn't just about money or achievement.
It's about finding your purpose and living a life that's aligned with your values.
Okay, so finally, let's talk about how she manages to balance her career and her family life.
Which, let's be honest, is a question that's disproportionately asked of women.
Yeah, it's like society expects women to be able to do it all without breaking a sweat.
But she's really honest about the fact that it takes a lot of effort and intention.
And she credits her strong partnership with her husband as being a key factor.
They have this shared vision for their lives, and they're really supportive of each other.
And they have this really cool system called the Sunday Zoom Out.
Which is basically a weekly family meeting where they plan out their schedules and make sure that everything is aligned.
And she emphasizes the importance of involving her kids in those discussions.
Making sure that they feel like they're part of the process and that their needs are being considered.
And she also acknowledges that you can't do it all on your own.
You need help, whether it's from your partner, your family, or hired help.
Yeah, and she actually reframes the idea of balance as more of an integration.
So it's not about trying to perfectly compartmentalize your work and your personal life.
It's about finding ways to blend them together in a way that works for you and your family.
And she believes that you can have it all.
But it's about defining what all means to you and your family.
And focusing on those key areas of your life that are most important.
And most importantly, being present in the moment and enjoying the journey.
Not just constantly striving for the next achievement.
Exactly. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that you're walking away with?
Well, I think the biggest one for me is the power of setting clear goals and working backward from there.
Yeah, having that clear vision of where you want to go makes everything so much easier.
It helps you prioritize your tasks, make decisions, and stay motivated.
And it gives you the confidence to say no to things that don't align with your goals.
And another big takeaway is the importance of time freedom.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that time is your most valuable resource.
And making choices that allow you to spend your time on the things that truly matter to you.
So figure out what your $1,000 tasks are and protect your time for them.
And then delegate or delete everything else.
We also got a really great glimpse into the realities of the entrepreneurial journey,
It's not always glamorous or easy.
but it can be incredibly rewarding, especially if you're driven by a sense of purpose.
And it's important to remember that success doesn't happen overnight.
It takes hard work, dedication, and a willingness to adapt.
And finally, I think this CEO's story really highlights the importance of finding your purpose.
Yeah, it's about figuring out what you're passionate about and using your skills and experience to make a difference in the world.
And that can look different for everyone.
So don't be afraid to define success on your own terms.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. What rule of three could you implement in your life, starting today, to help you move closer to your most important goals?
And how might you shift your approach to time management so that you're not just feeling busy, but actually living a full and meaningful life?
Maybe there's an opportunity right in front of you, something that seems unsexy or unglamorous, but that could actually have a huge impact.
So take some time to reflect on that and see what comes up.
And remember, you have the power to define what a successful and fulfilling life looks like for you.
So go out there and create it.